Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7 p.m. on December 10th, 2024, and I'm calling to order this regular City Council meeting. If you're able, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have open forum. Participants can share their comments in person, by voicemail or email, or they may also request to participate virtually. For more information on submitting comments, you can refer to the council agenda and minutes page on richfieldmin.gov at City Council. It'll have more information. Did anyone turn in any comments ahead of time or email any comments?
I have not received anything, Mayor.
All right, is there anyone here that wishes to participate in open forum? All right, so it does not look like we have anyone for open forum. So we will move on to approval of the minutes of the commission interviews from November 16th, City Council work session meeting, and City Council Truth and Taxation meeting, and the City Council regular meeting. All three of those were on November 26th.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve all four of those meetings. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving all four sets of minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we've approved the minutes. Next, we're going to move on to the presentation of the Edwina Garcia Community Builder Award and proclamation to John Biostad. Before we get into the award ceremony, former council member Garcia sends her regards to everyone. She was unable to be here tonight, and she reminded me that the purpose of this is to say that the people that are getting awards like this are the residents that are the glue that holds the community together. They're the engine of the community. So beyond just staff and elected officials, there are the people out there that are doing all the organizing, leadership, and volunteers, and she wanted to make sure that they were recognized as well. So, Mr. Biostad, if you would like to join me up at the podium. Front. So we'll start off with the proclamation. Thank you so much for joining us. You can come up here so everybody can see you. Whereas John Biostad has received the 5th annual Edwina Garcia Community Award for his commitment to the Richfield community, and whereas Mr. Biostad has been a proud resident of Richfield since February 4th, 1962, dedicating over 6 decades to the betterment of our community, and whereas Mr. Biostad has demonstrated exceptional leadership as a multiple-term president of the Richfield Optimist Club, fostering youth development, community connection, and optimism, and whereas Mr. Biostad has enriched the lives of Richfield residents through tireless service, including leading the Richfield Remodeling Fair, contributing over 1,500 hours to building the Richfield History Center, serving multiple terms as the congregation president of Oak Grove Lutheran Church, and volunteering on a range of committees and commissions, and whereas Mr. Biostad has shown steadfast commitment to preserving Richfield's history as treasurer of the Richfield Historical Society for 2 decades, ensuring future generations can appreciate our history, and whereas Mr. Biostad has exemplified civic pride and social responsibility through his participation in the Richfield 2020 Visioning Committee, Loaves and Fishes, mentorship of future leaders, and volunteerism in countless community efforts. And whereas the Richfield community celebrates John Biostad for his commitment and service to the residents of Richfield, his optimism, and his tireless dedication to community growth. Now, therefore, I, Mary Supple, Mayor of the City of Richfield, and the Richfield Council members do hereby award you this proclamation and the award for your service demonstrating your commitment to the core values of the City of Richfield. Proclaim this 10th day of December 2024. Thank you. And we truly appreciate your service, and we'd love to give you the floor to say a few words.
Well, it's nice to be recognized and to receive this honor, but the things that I've done over the years are merely things that needed to be done, and somebody needed to do them, and so I did. And I don't, most of the time I didn't consider them to be anything special, just something I enjoyed doing and needed to be done. And I thank you so much for this honor. It's
well deserved.
well, I don't know about that, but I'm glad to get it.
I don't know if you want to hold up the, everybody see the plaque. And then we were hoping to get a group picture with Mr. Biosted and his family and friends. The council can come down and join us as well.
Okay.
Accident to birth. I've grown this height in 6th grade and I stopped. So I'm usually always a front rower.
Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I move approval.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Excuse me. We have approved the agenda. Next, we'll go on to the consent calendar, and I'll turn it over to City Manager Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further council action on these items is necessary. Tonight's consent calendar is a long one, so bear with me. Item A, consider a request for a conditional use permit for 115-child daycare at 7132 Portland Avenue, Hope Church. Item B, consider the approval of the first reading of an ordinance amending City Code Section 550, floodplain management regulations. Item C, consider the approval of the local health and foundational public health responsibilities grant for 2025 provided by the Minnesota Legislature and administered through the Minnesota Department of Health. Item D, consider the adoption of the city's legislative priorities for 2025. Item E, consider the adoption of a resolution authorizing Richfield Public Safety Police Department to accept donations from the listed agencies, businesses, and private individuals for designated uses. Item F, consider to approve the renewal of the 2025 licenses for on-sale intoxicating club, on-sale 3.2% malt liquor and wine, and off-sale 3.2% malt liquor doing business in Richfield. Licenses to sell wine and 3.2% malt liquor on sale: Devani's, Joyce Bataya, Kataki, My Burger, Patrick's Bakery, Red Pepper, Sandy's Tavern. Licenses to sell 3.2% malt liquor off sale: Asal Winter Gas Pump and Munch, La Vaquita 2, La Vaquita Shortstop, Portland Food Mart, Target Corporation, Richfield Minocco, Speedway number 4186, Speedway number 4188, Speedway number 4191, Speedway number 4615. On sale intoxicating: El Tejaban, Fireside Foundry, Frenchman's Pub, Giordano's, Los Sanchez Taqueria, Lindale Smokehouse, Pizza Luce, and Fred Babcock VFW Post 5555. And that's a club license. Item G, consider a resolution requesting a variance from State Aid Route 8820.9941 for the design of the 70th Street Safe Routes to School project. Item H, consider the approval of a contract with Graymount LLC for the purchase of 1,400 tons of quicklime annually in 2025, 2026, and 2027 for water treatment purposes in the amount of $992,572. Item I, consider the approval of a bid tabulation and award a contract to Blackstone Contractors LLC for the Adams Hill Pond Maintenance Project in the amount of $845,290.41, which includes the base bid and alternates 1 and 2, and authorize the city manager to approve contract changes up to $175,000 without further city council consideration. Item J, consider adoption of a resolution designating polling places for 2025. Item K, consideration of an amended professional services agreement awarding American Rescue Plan Act funding to VEEP for services and activities that aid in the recovery of Richfield community members negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And finally, item L, consider a resolution adopting an updated capital assets policy for the city. And I submit all of these items for your consideration as part of the consent calendar.
Do we have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I'd move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would like to thank all the donors. That we had a number of donations that were received by the Public Safety Police Department. So I want to thank all of those people for their generosity. With that, if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we have adopted the consent calendar. Next, we'll be moving on to a public hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Thank you. This public hearing is to consider and approve the renewal of the 2025 pawnbroker license for Metro Pawn and Gun, Inc. at 7529 Lindale Avenue South. On October 15th, 2024, the city received the application materials for the renewal of pawnbroker license for Metro Pawn and Gun, 7529 Lindale. All required information and documents have been provided, and all licensing fees have been received. The Public Safety Director has reviewed the background information and approves of the contents and sees no basis for denial. So this is recommended for approval for us, but we do have a public hearing now. I'm assuming nobody registered to speak online or virtually. So does anybody in person wish to speak? And yeah, please come up and just state your name and address and whatever you wish to say.
My name's John Kunst. 7529 Lindale Avenue. As you probably know, I've been the general manager there for 25 years now. Mark sends you all his best wishes and happy holidays. He's doing his best to work on pursuing his retirement endeavors. And well, you wanted to make sure I came by in case there were any questions or just to show our respects. And thank you very much for making it such a wonderful city to work in.
Thank you so much. And if we do have any questions, they'll come up in discussion, but we really appreciate you coming every year, so thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on this item before we close the public hearing? Okay, I will move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The public hearing is now closed.
I move that we approve the renewal of the 2025 prime broker license for Metro Pawn and Gun at 7529 Lindale Avenue South.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary?
I would just reiterate, I appreciate these folks being good neighbors. Not every city and pawn shop have great relationships, so we appreciate that you show up. We love seeing no issues from the police chief, and thank you for coming and doing a good business.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we have approved the renewal. Thank you. Next, we will move on to item number 6 to consider approval of the second reading of a new ordinance establishing a local sales and use tax in Richfield. And so I'm going to turn that over to Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is to consider the approval of the second reading of a new ordinance establishing a local sales tax and use tax in Richfield. Council approved the first reading at the council meeting November 26, 2024. Richfield's an older community with a modest tax base, and the city has an immediate need to continue making investments to ensure community amenities are available for residents in the future. In 2022, a local sales tax and use tax, the LST, was identified as a potential funding source for 3 major projects, including the Woodlake Nature Center building project, the Veterans Park improvements, and the Richfield Community Center project. The project will support athletics, recreation, and well-being in Richfield. On January 24th, 2023, the City Council approved a resolution number 12067, directing staff to submit a request to the Minnesota Legislature to propose a 0.5% LST on the gross receipts from the retail sales in Richfield. In 2023, the Minnesota Legislature approved the Minnesota Laws 2023, Chapter 64, Article 10, Section 44, as introduced by the legislature. This gives the city the approval from the vote, with approval from the voters, the authority to impose an LST under the special law. The special law was approved by the City Council on July 25th, 2023. Voters approved imposing a local sales tax and use tax to finance the projects on the November 5th, 2024 general election. The City of Richfield is authorized to impose a 1.5% local sales and use tax, and the LST may only be imposed for the lesser of 2 time periods, either 20 years or until enough sales tax revenue has been generated to cover the costs of the approved projects, plus financing costs. Staff have anything else to add?
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank the voters again for investing in our parks and our assets. We are working hard to make sure that those assets are the best that they can be. We actually just had a work session on the new Woodlake Nature Center building. It has been a long process, and I just wanted to say thanks to our council, also thanks to our incoming council members, also our former mayor, Mayor Ray Gonzalez. That's how long it took, is how long we've been working on it. Also thanks to Carl Humiller, our Recreation Services Director, and his team, and then Amy Markle, who was the previous rec director. And a big thank you to Kate Aitchison, who led the communications campaign. And staff are available for questions.
Thank you. With that, I would move we approve the second reading of the new ordinance establishing a local sales and use tax in Richfield, and by resolution approve summary publication of said ordinance.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to, again, echo the thank you to residents and voters. If staff could remind, these are, all 3 projects will happen. They're not on the same timeline. If you could remind anyone listening what our, the Nature Center, we were just talking about it, that is set to move pretty quickly, but the others are farther out. If you could just remind us of that, please.
Correct. So the Wood Lake Nature Center building will be 2026 into 2027 project timeline. Betts Park will start in late 2026, but those projects will be done over time. So that'll be a longer timeline. The pool liner, which is the most urgent, will be done after the season in 2026. And then for the community center, we are looking at, right now it's in 2030. If possible, we'd love to see that moved up to 2029, but right now it's slotted in at 2030. And that project is, because it's the farthest out, is the least developed.
Thank you. And yes, primarily I know we've had a lot of communities, members ask about the community center. And for those who are interested in that, want to be part of shaping that, that is yet to come. You will have plenty of opportunities to do that in future years.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to also thank our staff, and residents might not appreciate just how much work goes in over, as City Manager Rodriguez said, just a number of years and a number of different staff members and elected leaders. And so I want to thank our staff. I also really want to thank our residents. Somebody who has spent more than 30 years going to Veterans Park and going to Wood Lake Nature Center, and we have my kids are here in the audience today. I want to thank everybody as a community. We can have great amenities because we choose to invest in great amenities as a community. And so, thanks, community.
Any further discussion? It's already been said, but I think it bears to be said multiple times. I want to thank all of the voters for approving this, and also thank all of the volunteers that were involved and gave feedback, and the staff and everyone that worked on this project. So we really appreciate it, and it's very exciting to see this all move forward. With that, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And let that be recorded as unanimous. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 7, which is considering the resolutions approving the 2024 revised and 2025 proposed budgets, tax levy, and related resolutions. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mayor. On September 10th, 2024, the City Council approved and certified a preliminary tax levy of $29,907,569, which included a levy for general fund operations of $23,654,051, a debt service levy of $4,101,375, and equipment and technology levy of $1,528,800, and an economic development agency levy of $623,343. There are no proposed changes to the final levy. As proposed, the 2025 gross levy represents a 5.45% increase from the 2024 gross levy. The proposed 2025 Housing and Redevelopment Authority, HRA, levy is a 3% increase to $720,610. The combined gross levies represent a 5.39% increase over the 2024 combined gross levies. The final tax levy of $30,628,179, which includes both the city levy and the HRA levy, must now be considered and approved by the City Council. Taxpayers have received individual parcel-specific tax notices as part of the Truth in Taxation hearing process. The City of Richfield held its 2024 Truth in Taxation hearing on November 26, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. At this meeting, staff presented and the council discussed the proposed city budget. While finalizing the 2025 budget document, the staff carefully reviewed every budget at fund level and department level. It was discovered that the following capital budget item needed to be revised so that it matches with requests submitted by respective project managers. The change has been made in the budget document presented to the council for adoption. Please note that this change has no impact on the general fund budget and the tax levy. The total of 2024 capital improvement budget has increased from $31,946,014 to $32,445,854. Changes made to the 2025 capital improvement budget include project detail, original number, revised number, and net change. Recreation and open space Donaldson Park Playground equipment. The revised number is $175,000 with a net change of $175,000. Buildings, fleet and technology, security cameras, City Hall and PW building. The revised number was $250,000 with a net change of $250,000. Buildings, fleet, I'm sorry, I just lost the, hold on a second. Yeah, I just lost it on my screen, sorry. Buildings, fleet and technology, network and fiber infrastructure projects had a change of $774,840,000 with a total of $499,840. And the 2026-2029 capital improvement plan has also been updated to reflect the addition of a new community center project for $55 million in 2030 to be funded with LST and other revenues. The addition does not change the totals for the CIP as it is scheduled for the following year. However, significant projects beyond the 4-year scope are noted in the plan. Included for your consideration are salary increases for non-represented employee pay plans. The proposed increases are a 3% increase for the general services and the specialized pay plans. The increases will be effective the first pay period of January 2025, with the majority of paydays in 2025. This change will be reflected in the paychecks issued on January 17th.
Or did staff have anything they wanted to add?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Councilmember. Thank yous will be a theme tonight. As you know, the budget process is led by our Finance Director, Kamud Verma. It's a long process, and the directors and key people on their staff put in a lot of hours of good work. Kamud's last day is January 3rd, and she has really had to navigate a tough stretch for the Finance Department. I'm really grateful that she stuck it out and is leaving a department that is stable, a staff with just lots of potential, and she has streamlined many of the processes. So thank you, and we will miss you.
All right, and I want to echo our thank you to Finance Director Verma. We really appreciate all you've done.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do you want to make the motion?
With that, I would call for a motion to approve this resolution.
I will second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the resolutions approving the 2024 revised and 2025 proposed budgets, tax levy, and related resolutions. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. There's been a lot of discussion already about this. I feel it's important to name, just not that it changes anything for this year, but as some up here look to next year, 2 of us, this is our final meeting. But the discussion in September as we approve the preliminary tax levy that is now the same as the final, we talked a lot about our city's approach to public safety, and that of the, I believe it was roughly $1.6 million increase in the levy and the budget, around half of that is going simply to increased pay for our current officer positions, which is both, it's a very challenging job that and very hard to recruit and retain quality staff for that position. I'm not saying that that is not deserved or not a worthwhile spending of money, And then an additional $300,000 is to add 2 additional officer positions. And so just want to be clear that this is a very large increase in our public safety budget that is focused almost entirely on traditional policing. And we heard from a lot of residents calling for both traditional policing and continued investment in alternative models. And I think we've done a lot of that good work. We've added social workers. We have an alternative response team. And I just want to highlight that some of those alternative responses are currently still being funded with from our ARPA, our American Rescue Plan dollars, have not yet been incorporated into the full budget. And so for next year, there will both be what I would consider the bare minimum of continuing those programs, incorporating them into our normal budget, so that they are an ongoing program that our community supports. And what I heard, as just a normal resident next year will be hoping for would be a continued increase to invest in those programs, and that I think the whole world has learned in the last few years that public safety is getting more complicated and we need a variety of responses. And so I just wanted to talk about that as it is the primary driver of the increase in this budget, and I think will continue to be an important thing to consider next year.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? I wanted to add that if you go to the city website for the minutes and the agendas, there's a section for tonight's meeting that says more. And if you click on that, you get to an over 200-page budget book. And if you get to about the middle of that book, for each department, it tells the highlights of what they did in 2024 and the goals for 2025. And it's very interesting reading because, you know, you kind of keep moving forward and doing things, and then when you see it all in one place, it's like, wow, a lot of really great work has been done, and a lot of people have put time and effort into that. And to see all of that and how the strategic planning works, and as Councilmember Whalen mentioned, things like the alternative response programs and all of those new things are there. So if you're interested in finding out what the city does, it's a really good summary. So I'd say probably the middle third of the budget book would be really interesting reading for anyone that wants to know what's going on in the city. So thank you to everybody for all the work that they've done. Any other comments or questions? With that, we have a motion before us to approve the revised budgets, tax levy, and related resolutions. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we have approved them. Thank you all. Next, we'll move on to consider the adoption of a resolution awarding the sale of $10 million in general obligation sales tax revenue bond series 2024A. And I believe the bonds were opened up today, and so there's some papers in front of each of the council members with the most up-to-date information, and I'll turn it over to Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. At the November 12th, 2024 City Council meeting, the City Council approved a resolution providing for the sale of $10 million in general obligation sales tax revenue bonds, Series 2024A. These bonds will finance improvements to the Woodlake Nature Center commencing in 2025. Bids on the bonds were due in the offices of Ehlers and Associates this morning. Rebecca Kurtz from Ehlers will be here today to recommend the successful bidder, review documents, and provide information for the resolution, which is only available after the bidding is closed. So I will hand it over to you.
Today, and the sale day packet, which provides a lot of the detail, was distributed at each of your seats before the meeting. So with that, as we've done with other bond issues, we did start our process with a rating with Standard & Poor's. I do know that the draft report was distributed via email late last week, I believe, and I did include the final report as published by Standard & Poor's in the packet that you have before you this evening. I'd like to start with saying congratulations. S&P did affirm the city's AA+ rating with a stable outlook for these bonds and with all of the city's other general obligation debt that is outstanding. As you guys have heard me say many times, it continues to be really a reflection of the work that you as the council and staff and the finance department do to carefully plan and be responsible with the use of public dollars, how debt is used, how budgets are put together. So congratulations on, again, that affirmation of the AA+ rating. I do want to just for the public highlight a couple of the comments that were made in the rating report that does support why Standard & Poor's did move forward affirming that. Standard & Poor's or S&P talks about the stable budget with surpluses in fiscal years 22 and 23, and then along with their anticipation that the city will continue to maintain its strong financial performance into 24 and 25. Standard & Poor's also talks about the healthy reserve position that falls in line with the policy that the city adopted to maintain an unassigned fund balance in an amount not less than 40% of expenditures, and that at this point there are no plans to spend down or touch that fund balance. S&P talks about the sophisticated management framework and really outlines their recognition of the work that staff and council do when putting together the budget each year and the thought that goes into that. They do recognize that the debt burden will be anticipated to grow, and we talked about that a little bit this evening with those future bond issues related to the sales tax and other capital projects. But they call out that the direct debt as a percentage of market value is 1.6%. So Standard & Poor's expects that while that debt may grow, it will remain manageable relative to the economy and the community. And again, the complete report is in your packet, and I'm happy to answer questions, but congratulations on that. So the real reason we are here this evening, we did receive 9 bids for these bonds in our office this morning. Hilltop Securities out of Dallas, Texas was the low bidder with a true interest rate of 2.713%. With that, one thing I do want to call out is we did receive a premium bid, and so in very simple terms, what that means is with the way the bonds were bid and the way they will be marketed, you received more money than what we anticipated with that. So you did receive $686,000 roughly more than what was anticipated. With that, then the par amount of the bonds still remains $10 million, so they are still the bank qualified. However, the premium provides the ability to have $10,572,887 go into the project fund for the Wood Lake Nature Center. So it is more than what we anticipated would go into the project fund. We do recognize that there is an $11 million cap on that per the sales tax, what happened with the referendum. And so that will be accounted for when we get ready to do the next phase of the bonds. But there was a premium bid on this. With that, we are recommending awarding to the low bid of Hilltop Securities with that interest rate of 2.713%. If you do choose to move forward and award the bonds per our recommendation, there is a resolution that's been provided by your bond counsel, and funds would be available on December 30th of this year. With that, in the packet there also is a more detailed list of what the individual bids were for those 9 if you're interested, along with final payment schedule. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? All right, thank you so
you.
much for the detailed information.
Then I would make a motion that we adopt the resolution awarding the sale of general obligation sales tax revenue bonds, Series 2024A, in the original principal amount of $10 million, fixing the form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we have adopted the resolution. Next, we will move on to the city manager's report. City Manager Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. There were no speakers at the last meeting's open forum, so I don't have anything to report on that. And I wanted to use my time to thank council members Troutman and Whalen, since this is their last meeting. Simon, you're the last council member from the council that hired me. And I just want to say thank you. I'm really grateful to be part of this organization. I think the community is a special place. Your love and pride in Richfield is infectious, and you bring an important historical perspective to the policy making. I also appreciate your big picture and entrepreneurial approach, and I felt that was important in our decision making. You are also one of the most interesting people I have worked with, and so don't be a stranger.
Oh, thank you.
Ben, you also started on council, it's just after I was hired. I've always admired your ability to thoroughly review information. You ask great questions, and you communicate in concise and effective ways with residents. I'm trying to learn from that. I'm also really grateful for your direct communication. We've had some tough conversations, but you made me feel like we could have tough conversations and it wouldn't fray the fabric of our relationship, and so I really appreciate that. I've often said that I want to live in the world that you're fighting for, and I know that as you step off council that you'll still continue fighting for that, so thank you. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you so much. Next, we'll move on to claims and payroll. Councilmember Troutman.
I would move claims and payroll.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve claims and payroll. Is there any discussion?
Thanks, staff.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we have approved claims. So before we get into the bulk of the hats off, which I think is going to be about two of our colleagues, I want to talk about one other thing. So I want to give a hats off to the Richfield staff who joined me in hosting the second graders from the STEM school, and a hats off to all the second graders and their chaperones and teachers. So we asked them, we talked about all the different things that happen in the city, and we took a poll of what they thought the most important thing was to them, and there was a clear winner that they want to take care of the earth. So I think we have some future Sustainability Commission members that may want to be on that group. So there was very clear, we emptied it after each class, and so each of the four classes independently chose that. So hats off to the Richfield STEM School second graders. All right. Councilmember Christensen, did you have anything to add?
Just want to advertise the Lights Parade being held on Thursday evening this week. And it'll be a fun evening to see all the different types of utility vehicles and everything that's going to be in the parade. Kind of kicks off this winter. If we would have a little snow to go with it, that would be great, but we'll take it. It's going to be cold, but we invite everybody to come on out and see it.
Thank you. Councilmember Hafer-Leary.
Yeah, I did want to just say thank you and goodbye, well, in this role to Simon and Ben. And yeah, I was thinking what exactly I wanted to say during the meeting, and then Katie said almost exactly the same things. So it must be that you truly do have a brand and a style as a council member that I also thought of very similar things. But it doesn't hurt to say nice things a couple times. So I do want to say, it's been a pleasure to serve with you the last 4 years, both of you. Particularly, Simon, your positivity, that you like being out there, being Mr. Richfield. You're a great voice for our community. You always push to include equity issues, and you always do everything with a smile on your face in a way that is really helpful, and it makes this group fun to be a part of, and it makes the city a good place to be.
Thanks, Fran.
Thank you. And then Ben, I just want to say that I really appreciate that you always challenge us on policy, and even your comments now during the budget passage, I think a lot of people would have just been like, oh, it's my last meeting, just like let it go. But you continue to challenge us, you continue to speak to your passion and your priorities. You've changed my mind on a number of issues over the last 4 years. You've been a supporter and an ally on a number of issues, particularly related to prioritizing climate change that I've really valued. And I'm going to miss you as well. So thank you so much.
And I want to echo that gratitude. Thank you so much for all of the service you've had, Councilmember Whalen. And I know you have a lot of passion for housing. We mentioned climate change, but the housing is another issue that you've worked a lot on, in the equity issues. So thank you for all of your commitment, and best wishes on your new adventures. Councilmember Troutman, thank you also. And I also want to thank you for your mentorship, because you were the experienced person when we all came on, and you kind of helped all the rest of us learn how to do things the Richfield way. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate all your passion. And there's been a number of times that I've, like, as Councilmember Hafer-Leary mentioned, you've changed my mind as we've had the discussion, so I appreciate all of that. So with that, I'm going to let you guys have the last words. So, Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. I shared some of this with a few folks when I first announced that I was not planning to run, but as I look back on my 6 years on council, we're in a very different place as a city. I think about big but little things. When I first ran, knocked on like 5,000 to 6,000 doors in Ward 3, and some of the things I heard over and over again were about communication with residents, and we since then have added, and want to thank our communication staff for this, the weekly newsletter that now hear compliments all the time about that, and how much we are telling people about what we're doing. I heard a lot about something that I was not expecting, had not thought too much about myself, but a lot about the number of garbage trucks. And we have since implemented the organized hauling system. I also thought about what first inspired me to run, and it was a set, frankly, of frustrating experiences with the city, that I had been part of the Police Multicultural Advisory Commission and was kicked off, and can get into details with you if you want, but that one of the things we were trying to do was start a conversation about racial disparities in our city, and that we since then have hired an equity coordinator. We have embedded into our strategic plan that every department would be looking at, tracking, identifying, and working to address racial disparities that are relevant to their department. And so still room to grow, but that very, very different than where we started. Mayor Supple mentioned the work around housing, that when I first started getting engaged in Richfield, some of the council members who are not even up here anymore just seemed only interested in new sort of expensive housing. We're less concerned about displacement of our current residents, and the Crossroads at Penn situation was something I heard about a lot, and worked with some great community members and on some tenant protection ordinances, and was told at the time by staff that we didn't have any capacity to talk with renters, and that's not something they knew how to do. And since then, I mean, we've had several great renters who are part of our commissions, I first ran for council when I was a renter. We've certainly embedded, again, in our strategic plan, some great goals about housing affordability, passed some great policies, including one of the first cities to work on accessible and affordable housing in our inclusionary zoning policy. So some strong progress there, and then also on climate action, that when I started, and this one I'll give a special hat tip to a previous mayor, Maria Regan Gonzalez, that some of our departments were talking about it, but it was not a citywide conversation. We didn't have any dedicated staff, and now we have 2 staff people, a budget set aside for that, a climate action plan, and a conversation that particularly is thanking Councilmember Troutman for his partnership and support on things. I feel like you helped us break open a new level of conversation around our climate action efforts about, like, what is the impact really going to be here, and why do we need to care about this so much? And so I don't think any one of those areas that we're never done communicating better with residents, we're never done with caring for our environment. I would love to hope that in my lifetime we'll be done addressing racial disparities. But the work goes on, but I feel really proud of the work that I got to be part of. I don't list all of these things off to claim credit for all of them, but that it truly was a partnership with everyone here. Many of our staff are in the room, and the ones who are not. But especially with residents that, I see our incoming Ward 3 council members here. One of the first things I told her, have told other people who run for office, my biggest lesson is that sitting in this chair, having a vote, is not nearly as powerful as the moments when I've had the community behind me. And so thank you to everyone who weighed in, whether it was through a random late night text as I was reading our council packets, or when people came in groups to hearings to speak up. But just thank you to everyone in the past 6 years who's had a part of our process. And I will hand it off to my colleague and thank you for all of the times we've partnered, your thoughtful discussions, and yes, I would echo what others have said, that you are much better than I at being cheerful, even through the tense conversation. So thank you for your optimism and your personality in that regard.
Councilmember Troutman.
Well, thanks, friend. And I just have to start by mirroring some of the same comments to Councilmember Whalen. As a council member, I've learned a lot from, and particularly in issues of climate change, and also I just reflect on our council and just how smart and talented and in different ways my colleagues are. And Sean, you have a command of details that is nearly superhuman, but not just for trivia's sake. You put it to extraordinarily good use, and you challenge us to think more thoughtfully and carefully and deeply, and we share a visual aesthetic, which I also appreciate. And for our mayor, you know your way around a budget, and I really appreciate your leadership and your calming presence in the midst of storms. And Councilmember Christensen is a serially published author. A lot of people don't know that. And there are so many thank yous. I'm going to try to get through them really quickly. But I do want to thank our staff. When we came in. When I came two terms ago, I grew up when we moved to Richfield. We had moved maybe 7 or 8 times by the time I was 7 years old. And when our family moved to Richfield, it became, in many ways, the forever home, and Richfield the forever home. And to be able to not just represent my city, but to have the neighborhood I grew up in send me to speak for them and send me twice, just one of the great honors of my life. So. Thank you, residents. Thank you, community. In one of the highest voting wards in the country. Thank you. But to our staff, we came at a time of generational change. The median age of our council shifted down 30 years in about a term. And for the first time in our state's history, we had a majority Latino council. And we had a city that had become about 40+% people of color, and we had a staff that was functionally 100% Caucasian, and certainly at a leadership level, that was the case. And we had different visions, and for all the staff that took time to share things and teach me things that I didn't know, I want to say thank you. And for especially all the staff that's still here, change came, and some people embraced that vision, some people left that vision. Nobody got here without growing, and certainly I was a part of that. But to our staff, you have moved extraordinarily through the pandemic. Was an extraordinary time of change. I want to say thank you. I'm so proud of so many things that we've accomplished. I won't name them because we'll be here all night. But I do want to recognize our new council members, and I see Rory Coleman there. And when I became a council member, something that you don't think of all the time when you run for an elected office is the power that you'll have to encourage people, to be joyful. I remember the day after the election, I said thank you to the receptionist at my son's school. And she just said, I just did the normal things you'd normally say, which is, thank you, I appreciate you, you're doing a great job. And she just said, oh my goodness, it made this impact that I wasn't expecting. And I walked away thinking, I didn't just become more charismatic overnight. But when I said thank you, I was, for the first time, saying thank you on behalf of our city. And it's an incredible power and an incredible privilege to express something on behalf of community. And so I'm really excited to share that with our new council members. I'm so grateful for our new council members and think exceedingly highly of them. I do want to thank one more group of people because it is impossible to be here and be anywhere else at the same time. And you might notice these all take place in the evenings. They take place at night. My colleagues here, they didn't even recognize my sons, how big they've gotten over the years. And for every hour I've had the opportunity to be in community, I have often dragged my children along with, but oftentimes haven't. And for all the hours that you've come with me, and for all the hours you haven't, I just want to recognize that you both, Leander and Justice Troutman, have made a lot of sacrifices. And to my wife, Jennifer Melendez Troutman, you have made a lot of sacrifices. And when things happen in community and there's pain and there's us being not here, you're making a really big contribution. So if we could we have my family standing? Could we give my family a round of applause? Thank you, Jennifer, Leander, Justice. I love you very much.
Go ahead.
I did, thank you. I did forget to thank my family, who, my son is 2, so they are no longer in the room. The goldfish only lasted so long. But yes, would echo to that I, for my day job, which is out in community organizing, my wife often says, when I'm recruiting others, she says, I'm already participating.
Yeah.
I'm watching Caleb. And so thank you for making all of this possible, and for your love and support through challenging scheduling, that's a reality of these positions.
And if I could just add, just because Councilmember Whalen mentioned this is not like a final goodbye. Councilmember Whalen is still involved in politics and has made that his ambition. I don't feel we're still neighbors. We're still in community. There's still lots of work to do. We're excited to do that. So it's not a funeral. I'm reminded of Jon Stewart and his rally to restore hope and or fear. If people recall that, when he said, sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is just New Jersey. And so we're excited to still be here on January 1.
Well, thank you again, Councilmember Whalen and Councilmember Troutman, and your families, because I do think that's very important to acknowledge the families. So with that, if there's no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I would move that we adjourn our meeting.
I would second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And now we sign off with the last time with this particular council. We stand.